We just saw the last dude come up and he was frazzled the entire time. The dude before that, nervous the entire time.
But reality, I'm not gonna lie, inside that shook me a little bit. And it's not a lot that shakes me when speaking publicly because, you know, I do it so often, but that shook me.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of This Is Day for Tomorrow podcast. I had to start off kind of hot. It's about to come back down, but I hope y'all are having a great day today. This episode right here, I'm sure you saw the title of it. We got a follow up to our episode on being the man in the arena. Recently, our guy, Mr. Michael Wright, he went and did a speech, a presentation, and it was absolutely phenomenal from our side, like sitting inside of the stands. Like we came to support and everything. We were watching them. But there was one particular moment that was inside of this presentation that I really wanted to just get on the podcast and talk about. Mike, could you give the people some context?
Yeah, so I was in a 9-month intensive learning series for commercial development for real estate. And this was a pretty intense course. You know, I have an MBA, but this was actually a lot more intense than my MBA. Well, probably because real money was on the line, right? So anytime you got real money on the line, it's going to be a lot that goes into it. And so we had expert consultation. Like, for example, I had 2 architects that I met with every week. I had a development advisor who was a VP at Invest Detroit. So, I mean, we're dealing with people that, you know, are in high positions, right? And everything was leading towards this final pitch, you know. So the presentation that Martell was speaking about, like, this was my actual pitch where I had 30 minutes on stage. I had to basically pitch the design, the idea, and most importantly, the financials had to make sense. So first of all, I want to thank you guys, man, for coming to support. Like, that was awesome. Just, you know, having some people come to support. I think everybody I invited showed up, man. So that was like really cool. But it was one of those things where, you know, obviously podcasting and different things, I speak on a regular, you know, it's not something that's uncommon to me. But that environment and everything for 9 months going into this one pitch, you know, real money on the line, it being so scripted, it was a lot of different variables that made it a little bit just a little bit more high stress than normal for someone like myself. Now, some of the other people, they're not used to speaking like that, and it was just high stress period. Just, you know, speaking in front of a lot of people is like the number one fear of most people, right? So this particular incident that Martell is referring to, I was very meticulous about my slide deck. Like, I mean, to the point where I knew my slides through and through. Like, I prepped over it a million times. And I have this thing like leading up to a big event where I submerge myself in the data and the preparation. And it's funny because like my wife always asks, like, why do you like, you know, you're going to do well. You always do well. And I'm like, listen, I do well because I overly prep. I know my stuff's through and through. And so I had the pitch leading into this like climactic moment of where I had a development summary giving all of the juicy key information that I know all the financial people in the audience needed to see. And when the slide goes up, I look, because first I can see it from my screen, which you guys can't see, but it allows me so I don't have to look behind me. I can just see in the front. And I'm like, okay, the data's not there. So I'm like, all right, cool. It's not showing here, but I know it's showing for the audience. So I look behind me. I don't know, did you guys see that?
I saw
it.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
I didn't know that. I didn't know what. That's why you looked. I just thought you just was checking, to see if the slide
No,
turned.
I'm checking because I'm like, I know this data is there. And I'm like, and for a split second internally, I'm not going to lie, I kind of was like, what the heck? Because, so I looked at my screen, I look at the screen that you guys see, and then I immediately look at the coordinator in the audience. And I look at her, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, that's what she's mouthing to me.
Yeah.
And then I knew, I said, dang, it's not there. Because I'm like, I'm just not seeing it. And I was just looking like, hey, she knew exactly what I was thinking. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So I was like, okay, cool. It ain't there. So all these people are looking back at me. So I had to immediately keep flowing. And one thing that I always try to think about is remaining tight mentally, but loose physically. And so my hope was that I was able to segue and flow because I knew my numbers. To be honest, I didn't need the data up there. But as you guys know, when you're in these arenas, we use this information as crutches, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be there. But when it wasn't there, I said, okay, cool. Let me just rattle off the numbers. But I think, so, the bigger point is, Martell, like what you were saying, man, in life, things aren't going to happen that no matter how much you plan, they're going to be unknown. I call them unknown unknowns. And these are some things that you have to be able to adapt and just understand where, hey, this is a moment. This is why you are who you are. And you got to be able to flow through these moments.
Yeah. Real.
I wanna give that same story, but from the other side. So like you heard it first person from him. Now I didn't know about the eye contact with the coordinator in the back. I didn't see all that. What me and Rodney saw, because we was in the stands, we was sitting there. I saw Mike, he was going through his slides. He had his presentation. He was like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, this is that. We about to do this. It's about to be dope. He was saying it. he was getting it. And then he got to this slide that you knew was what did it say?
Development summary.
Project highlights. Development summary. Development. And so, that was, and it had bullet points on it. It had little dots on the left side. And then the rest of it, the middle section was blank. So I'm like, oh, this is creative. This is creative. This is creative. This is different. So all the other slides have words on them. This one don't got no words on it. Okay, cool. And so we see Mike look up and he looks and then he comes back and then he continues on. And so he's like, hey, I think you said, technical difficulties, technology, you can't always rely on it, this, that, but here's what it says. And then he rattled off bullet point, and then went to the next slide. So from everybody who wasn't Mike, it was fine.
Yep.
Everything from our side was like, oh, okay, cool. Like this is a part of the show. Like he class act right here. Yep. He nailed it. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a perfect example of like being the man in the arena, because like we just actually sitting there, we just saw the last dude come up and he was frazzled the entire time. He was nervous his entire presentation. The dude before that, nervous the entire time. The dude after Mike, nervous. I mean, he just was saying all kinds of stuff. And it was like, but my dude, Michael Wright, he went up there and it was just like, he just dusted it off of his shoulder that the bullet points weren't there. So I'm like, man, that's something. That's what it looks like when you have already done the work. Yeah. When you have already done the reps, when you the process, you have stayed true to the process day in and day out, and now it's time to present. And just because you don't got your lucky bat, your lucky slippers, your lucky jacket, your lucky chain, you can still perform. That's what he did. That's what he did the other day.
Hey, that definitely major props. Because Martell right on. What Mike described, like Martell said, all that stuff he did, he processed that like in seconds. The audience didn't see that
like that.
Yeah, and what Martell brought up, I think, is good because, and Mike shared it too, as a prep, and being that man in the arena and using that example, the pressure can crush you, I guess is what I'm getting at. And you heard Mike's process of how he deals with things, preparation and all that, but until you in that spot, until that happens, and I've seen it, and I think we all have seen people where it just throws a whole thing off. They can't get back on point.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all messed up my slides.
Exactly. And you're so focused on that. And you can take it to sports. You can take it to public speaking. You can take it to any major thing in your life where you have to deliver in front of a group of people. And the question is, if the script has to change or if you have to adjust, how do you do it? Because being the man in the arena, it's not going to always go smooth. Matter of fact, it never really goes, well, I would say flawless. You always going to have hiccups here and there. Mic might stop working. Something's going to happen. Somebody, we got to go out of order. You got to go next, or you don't have as much time as you had. How do you respond?
Yeah.
But this baby won't stop crying.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a fact, man. And it's crazy because the key, like you said, Rodney, I literally went through like the 5 stages of grief in seconds. Because my immediate thing was like denial. Like this can't be happening. Like I looked at this screen, I look at that screen, and I look at the person that was supposed to make sure this didn't happen. And she's a great gal. Like it wasn't. It's not even her fault. It's just it is what it is, And so my next thing, I had to skip from denial and anger and go immediately to acceptance and moving on. And so when we moved on, and I think what I was saying was, being a developer, we have to constantly adapt. Anyways, things are gonna always. And I tried to incorporate this example as to how we have to be prepared for these type of things. And matter of fact, because I know my numbers, I don't need that slide like everybody else. And that's what I was trying to convey. But I mean, just being honest, man, I want to give the people an honest, I want to inform the people honestly, like that was a vulnerable moment. I'm not going to lie. And I'm glad that it didn't come off that way because that was my intention is where I have my armor up, I have my uniform. I want you to see what I want you to see. But reality, I'm not going to lie. Inside, that shook me a little bit. And it's not a lot that shakes me when speaking publicly because, I do it so often, but that shook me because I'm thinking like that was the climactic slide of the whole presentation. And because I knew exactly who I was, giving that information to. And when it wasn't there, it was like a oh shoot moment. But immediately, the thing I want people to understand.
I'm sure you use a different word, but that's all right. We appreciate it.
I definitely use a different word. Yeah. A couple less letters, And that's what it was, man. But the thing is not what happens. It is how do we flow? You know what I'm saying? And then I like how when we were talking after, I think it was either Rodney or Martell, or maybe both of you guys, but it was like, one of you guys were saying how it actually showed an advantage because, instead of you kind of harping on the fact that it wasn't there, I was just like, okay, cool. I know my numbers. And so this is what they are. So I still gave the people the information they needed and I was able to just flow. And one thing I thought was cool was that the coordinator she was a G about it. Like she admitted like, this is 100% my fault. And she didn't try to, kind of, how people try to just move the blame and all of that. And so that was cool, man. But it was an example of when we're in these arenas or we're in these positions, we really do have to consider all elements.
Yeah.
What if things go wrong, man? And it's not about whose fault it is, nothing like, it's about how do we take that opportunity, because it surely is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to crumble or it's an opportunity to stand tall and really be who you said you were.
As the man in the arena, you always like you have set yourself up to have all the vulnerable moments because everybody else, they sitting comfortable. They sitting comfortable in the stands. They ain't doing nothing. And no matter whatever they do is common because everybody else is sitting next to them, so it's normal. It's fine. Yeah. But you're the one everybody's paying attention to. You're the only guy on the stage. So the way that you react Now everybody sees it. All our eyes are right on you. It's not on me. I could burp. I could crack my nails 5 times. Ain't nobody cares about what I'm doing. But if you do it, now it means something because you're the man in the arena.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, I just loved how you maneuvered. And I remember us talking about that because I'm like, oh man, the people at the front who were doing, the judging and everything. I'm like, man, I hope that they take that. I hope that they take that very very seriously what he just did, because one thing, which was again it just speaks to the character. Mike did not stand there, look at the slide, come back, look at the lady, and then say, they messed up my slides. I mean, how many people do we know would have first opportunity? They would have been like, "This wasn't my fault."
Man, Martell, I'm glad you went there, because that is the opposite of what we're talking about here. And we do need to talk about it, because sometimes individuals can be so quick to say, "Hey, it wasn't me," and want to shift that blame. And Mike said a couple of things too. He said, like, the lady who was over it, she owned it. She owned it. And Mike owned it from the standpoint, hey, this is my data. I'm gonna do it. But individuals, and you get those people who are in those spots, and we all seen them. I see it at work. I see people in senior leadership. Man, they don't have it. They might be the person in the arena, the man in the arena, but they don't handle the pressure well. They don't handle change well. They respond maybe in anger. They respond in no, oh, we're done. We've all seen that behavior, and that's not who you want to be in the arena.
No, I need a do-over. Y'all need to let me do. I need to come back the next time. Y'all need to let me do it again because lady in the back messed up my slides.
Exactly. Hey, and that's a good point though. See, it ain't no do-overs. This is it. Like it was. See, so the story behind the story, like it's some things that went on. Like it's one developer. She didn't even present yesterday. Like she's in Africa, in Kenya. She has a development that they were kicking off. They had to move some things around last minute because, and I told my wife this too. I said, man, they have her going right before me. I said, I hope they don't try to move my time slot if she can't make it, because I've noticed where, she is very busy. She can't always make it. And so as soon as I came in there, they're like, hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing? I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's up?
They filling it out.
They're like, listen, I don't know if, this person's going to be able to make it in time. They're supposed to be coming in from the airport and driving. In my mind, they're not making it. It's too many opportunities for something to go wrong. Like, so I knew what they were going to add. They're like, listen, would you mind going first? I said, hey, listen, normally I wouldn't. Y'all know I'm a team player. I said, but I can't do it today. I said, and this is why. I said, because I've invited important people where I can't, move it with this tight of a window. Especially one of the main people is my wife. I know that we have a babysitter coming at this time. There's no way she's going to be able to adjust on the fly like that. Yeah. And so they were like, listen, we understand it's all good. So they were able to. So the guy that ended up going before me, he was supposed to go last. So I think, it's great that he went, but I felt a little bad because I'm like, he was a little more noticeably nervous. Yeah. And the judges kind of were grilling him. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm waiting, I'm waiting to go up and I'm listening to them grill him. I'm like, I gotta know my stuff, man, because they grilling in that. Yeah. Hey, this Memorial Day, they grilling. They got it on the grill, baby. So I'm like, all right, I got to know my stuff. And then with you guys, I don't know if I told you guys, but I sat through, we were the second day. We were the final day. We had a whole another day of presentations. So I kind of saw how some of the judge interactions can go. Like, if they get to grilling, you got to be ready for that heat. And so what I kept telling myself, and I told other people too, I said, listen, In life, man, this is a confidence game. You know your stuff. That's why you're here. Remember that. If you believe your information and you can convey it in a way to where it's supreme confidence, you're going to make your audience feel more comfortable. Even if you're wrong and you get called out, you have to be able to explain your rationale, okay? Because we can always pivot and make it right, but you got to be confident. And that's one thing that I kept telling myself, like, all right, whatever happens, we gonna do it 100 miles an hour. We're going to be 100% confident. Now, that was something that I didn't think that was going to, I can't say I didn't foresee the possibility because things happen. It's technology. I just didn't foresee it happening.
So, Mike, you just triggered a question in my head. We talking about being in the arena, being a man in the arena. So, Matt, you brought up two things. You brought up the individual who went before you, the lady who was trying to come in from the airport. So, maybe we should talk about, being the person in the arena, but how you show up to the arena. Because, showing up like, rushing, I don't know about you, I hate being late. And if you rushing, you ain't got time to settle your mind. And then you get up there and you still like going 100 miles an hour somewhere else. You ain't even got your mind settled to do what you got to do. So, I mean, just talking about the importance of how you show up, because showing up early kind of, I don't know about you, you might walk the place a little bit. You get the layout, you kind of see where, get the feel of the crowd before, so you understand what's going on. So, I mean, let's talk about the importance of how you show up to the arena.
That's critical, man. I'm glad you said that too. So everything to me goes back to preparation, right? So I purposely wanted, I slotted my name to go second because I wanted to be able to see the arena, because this was that wasn't where we normally held our course at. So we had to see a new environment. I wanted to see how the stage was set up. I wanted to get a feel for how the judges were set up. What type of questions are they asking? I even the first day I went on stage and I took a quick little video. And one of the gals in our cohort, she was like, "Oh, you're presenting today?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." She's like, "Oh, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just going through my mental prep," because what she doesn't realize is I saw myself on that stage a million times before I actually went. Like, I would go back when I was doing my prep, I would look at the video and I would see I would see the perspective that I was going to have that day. So I would imagine the audience, I would imagine myself, and I would see myself doing it in different iterations. But I've done it so many times to where when it was game day, like, to me, that was game day. I had done it millions of times. So any little thing that happened, I fully expected myself to be able to pivot and move fluidly because, look, you've been here before. And that only comes from respecting the preparation. Like you said, showing up early, being able to calm down, like go through all your mental iterations versus rushing down there. Oh man, can't find a parking spot. I gotta run inside. Now you get on stage, you kind of frazzled. You're not really in your mental element. But the reality is sometimes you got to do it like that. It might be times where the baby had a blowout right before he was about to leave. You got to stop, change the baby. You got to make sure everything's straight. The babysitter showed up late. So it caused you to be late. Like, hey, we got to do it anyways. And this is the importance of being a professional. This is what we call it, call ourselves professionals. Right now, we're doing a podcast. We don't know what went on last night. I might only had 2 hours of sleep last night. It doesn't matter because when we show up on this camera, we expect to give a certain level of standard performance that the people have grown to expect from us.
That's the ball game. That's the ball, because we call it like, so I forgot, you made me think about it. Literally, I believe the night before, I was talking to Miss Sherry Kemp, co-pastor, Freedom in Christ Ministry, and Danette. we were going through, I was showing them like how to run like the slides and everything for the Sunday services and like the audio and how it all works together. And I remember but Jeanette had said something in something particular. Like she was asking like, does the song play automatically when you go to a certain slide, or what happens if this or that? And I pretty much told her, I'm like, look, the reality is the reason that we're in here going through these slides right now, the reason that you have to actually turn the volume on, the reason that you want to actually have audio going through everything is because you need to prepare at game speed. And game speed, like, it's not, obviously we're just talking about Sunday service, but same principle. Like, you want to prepare at game speed so that you know everything is working exactly the way it should when it is time where it's needed, where it has to happen. And so, I told her, like, there's going to be a time where you're like, okay, now the person on stage, they want to do this, and we didn't really plan for them to do this at this particular time, so we're maneuvering. I told her, like, the thing is, nobody in the audience knows how it's supposed to happen. Only you know. So all you need to do is make sure that you have prepared enough to know how to maneuver successfully so it doesn't look like a big mistake, so that you don't get freaked out on your own. Because if you freak out, now it's a mistake. Now everybody knows.
Everybody else is gonna freak out.
Yep.
Everybody else is gonna freak out.
That's it right there. That's the game right there. If we had a 30-second podcast, that would be it. Like, because it's a confidence game, man. When you're in the driver's seat of anything, like a vehicle, an airplane, a production, you have to be able to have that confidence no matter what happens.
Yep.
We're okay. We're good as long as we flow. The moment you show you're freaking out, that's when everything, because now everybody's questioning everything. Another incident, real quick story, is the previous day, it was a young lady that did a presentation, and one of her calculations was incorrect on the screen, the big screen. And one of the judges called it out like, hey, I don't know, you might have to can you explain this calculation, because when I go through it's not. And so she was kind of looking like, oh yeah, she did when a mumble, she looked at her screen and she looked at the big screen like, oh yeah, maybe that was an error. I had to go back. But see, what happens is, when you see one error, when it comes to like calculations, now you start questioning everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
you lose the audience, because now it's like everybody was like, that can't happen. Like certain things,
Trust go away now.
Trust is very much in question. You gotta get the audience back.
People need to understand it. Being in the arena don't mean you in there with 100 people all the time. It can be 5. It could be 200. It could be 2 or 3. But it's really being the person under the bright lights, delivering something, whether it be, I don't know. Hey, look, my mother used to cater. When she had a catering function, she had to make sure everything was right. So if that food wasn't right, they looking at her like, you got this wrong, Miss Kemp, what's going on? But she was the woman in the arena at that point. So that I want to make sure everybody understand that it's not about size. It's about you being the person that has to deliver something.
You essentially are at risk of judgment.
But the biggest judge should be yourself, though. That's the whole thing. Like, to your point, Rodney, like, we're not talking about, a development presentation or a big game. This is just a life thing. Anything that's important to you, where you have a end result in mind, and you're working to achieve that end result. This is what we're talking about, the arena. And one thing that you guys know, now that I'm back, I don't know if you guys were talking about it, but now I'm back. We got to get back that process.
I do it.
You got to go to that daily process, because ultimately you cannot control the end result, but you can control your daily process and how you prep for the end result that you have in mind.
Facts, all facts in this episode here today. And look, maybe this is another episode that we maybe should touch on, but it's like some people are too afraid of that potential judgment to even be in the arena. But the benefit of being in the arena is there's so much more upside to actually taking the risk for standing out. But then the downside could potentially be, depending on what arena you're in, but the downside is really just somebody's opinion. But that's for another episode.
Yeah.
That's
a good point, because one thing I do want to say too, had I had a freak out moment, or it kind of rattled me more, I would have took it as, you know what, I was a little less than my best, but I'm going to learn from that. So the key is, regardless of how the result is, because it might be some people watching saying, you know what, man, I had a big moment recently and I completely fumbled. I just fumbled the ball. I was on the fourth. It was 4th and inches and we were about to score or whatever happened. I just fumbled straight up. Bro, that it happens. Take it as a lesson and even that is opportunity to grow from.
Yeah.
You can grow from that. So that's the biggest thing I wanted to say as a takeaway.
Housekeeping items. Let's talk about a few things. Mike, you want to kick us off?
Yes, sir. So we have merch available, everyone. And this is just designed really to inspire the people in the daily walk. Like, so for example, today I'm wearing the Outlasting All Obstacles with the lion's head logo. We have another one that's Rebuilding Detroit, one house at a time. And if you want to support, you want to get some of the merchandise, come visit me at my Instagram, DetroitInvestor_WCI.
Hey, just want to make sure, invite everyone out who's in the Southfield area. You can come out and join us Sunday service at the Freedom Center. Freedom Christ Ministry has service at 11:30 a.m. It's 28202 Franklin Road. Also for the men, we have Men 2.0 the second Saturday every month. That's at 10 a.m. Same location, 28202 Franklin Road in Southfield. Come on out and join us, because look, we as men, and these brothers, we know each other. We know each other for a while, but we are in there, and probably I want to say it gets up to maybe 30 brothers, and we having good discussion, building each other up, understanding how we've been designed by God to be men, especially Black men. So come out, check us out.
Also too, Rodney, that what you said about FIC, what if I'm not in Southfield? How can I tune in? How can I get connected?
Thank you, Mr. Martell. Look, so we're not limited by the location itself, because we're a church in no wall. So we do have a virtual service as well that's available every Sunday morning on demand, actually. So just go to our YouTube channel, or you can go to our website, freedomchristministry.com, and you can see the actual services, past services. So you will not have to miss out. You will get the word. If you want the word, you will get the word.
I want to specifically talk to a group of people who, they run a business, okay? They run a business. Things have gone well for X amount of time. And you're probably in old school kind of ways where it's like, you don't want to touch on that social media stuff. It's for kids. You don't want to look, everything is by hand, paper. I'm writing down people's phone numbers, names, emails, and everything. I've got a full catalog in my office of everybody's phone number and email that I've ever had, but I'm not sending nobody anything other than a text message from my personal phone. It's 2024, brother. I want to help you out. Okay. If you want to get organized with not just the back end, like understanding like how to send somebody, how to follow up with somebody 7 months after you met them for the first time through an automated email, and you don't have to talk to them and they become a client, or they set an appointment with you and you didn't have to work for it again. That's what we do. If you've never gotten into the digital space because everything has been on your phone pretty much, and if they didn't see your van come past, then they have no idea who you are. If you want to kind of have an omnipresence throughout the internet so that people who are interested in the thing that you do and need it, they can get in contact with your brand at any point of the day. If you're a roofer, I want you to pay attention to this. Focus 417 is a digital advertising agency that does exactly that. We help you to be everywhere that your people are all the time. That's through digital advertising. And so if you want to learn more about it, if you want to get connected, if you want to have a conversation, all the information to do that is inside of the description. And if you are on this episode and you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed, go ahead and do that now. We definitely appreciate it. Share it with somebody who you think this could benefit. Fellas, all hearts and minds?
Clear. Clear.
All right, we will see y'all on the next episode.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.